corresponding to the different regions that we have. Because when, for example, if you talk about the northern part, because of the too much rainfall, the soils there are mostly leached. So the question is, what type of fertilizer can work very well in such an environment? Then that way maybe I would have said, yes, what you are speaking to makes sense. But even with the other programs that we have in this country, we are talking about the Farmer Input Support Program, which is a part of what we are doing as a part and parcel of our agricultural policy. It also speaks to that, because when this government is giving out inputs in the different programs that we have, the inputs are also made to make sure that they are given according to the different agricultural regions that we have in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, in short, this is a BID that has been brought here. BID in the sense that you are bringing something that is already being done. Yeah. So I'm even wondering what kind of research was being done, because I expected this to be something that is straightforward. So try next time. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, the people of Congo are saying this is a BID, government is already working, and what we want is issues that will add to what we are already doing, not trying to reinvent the wheels. Agroecological zone-based policy is already part and parcel of the Zambia agricultural policy. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lunte.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to inform you that the Chitimukulu added a stock of cousins to the Bemba-speaking people. All the Lozi stock is now part of our cousins. Mr. Speaker, in Bemba we say, wakupata takati lebusu mavo. In other words, the person who does not appreciate your ideas can never say, this is a good point you bring. Honorable Fuve is saying, create an agriculture policy. That is basically what he's saying. Create an agriculture policy which is based on agroecological zones. In other words, give support to the various people of this country who are domiciled in different ecological zones differently. Madam Speaker, my honorable colleague says show cause or tell us how policy has failed to speak to this. I'd like to tell you, FISIP is uniform across the board. Agro loans are uniform across the board. And I would like to inform my honorable colleagues that research is not policy. So Mount Makulu may research based on these ecological zones, but research is not policy. My friend here is saying create policy, an agriculture policy which is based on agroecological zones. Mr. Speaker, if you did that as a nation, what benefits do you draw? You have targeted support. In other words, the support that you are going to give is speaking to the ecological environment as it is. And ecology, just to talk about the factors which influence ecology, it would be rain patterns, Mr. Speaker, vegetation, the type of vegetation, the type of soil formation and soil types, the types of insects, relationships. Why would government fail to support a policy which is going to target particular areas as they are situated in terms of these factors? And your colleagues would even come up and say, no, these policies exist. Where do they exist? We have seen FISIP being given the same way, and bags of fertilizer stolen in the same way everywhere across the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I find this motion very easy. I find it straightforward, and it will help government to make informed plans. Because when you are applying for a particular ecological zone, that information exists. And so you put your implements properly in a manner that speaks to the challenges of a particular area. It's not going to be uniform. Mr. Speaker, when you plan based on information and then you execute a plan that has been properly informed, the result is economic growth. The result is a healthy nation. The result is a happy people. The result is praise for government, not even for opposition. Why should it be us in the opposition to be supporting good ideas? And the colleagues in the government are telling us, no, those are bad ideas. How can a policy which speaks to ecology be a bad policy? What type of policy do you want to have? The one which speaks to me the same way it does you. Lunte is different, sir, from Monze Centro. Lunte is different, sir, from Kankoyo and Kanfinsa. So, why would an MP, my friends, say this is a bad motion, this is a bad idea? These are the questions I beg to ask. Mr. Speaker, listen to that minister talk about Kubwerera when I'm already here. Sir, this is my second term. The guy shouting is a green on. He's a new termer who may not even get a second term like me. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, just concentrate on the debate.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'll concentrate. I'll concentrate. Ask the Minister of Sport to concentrate on listening to me, not to talk back to me. I'm a second term.
Just speak to the motion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want a policy on agriculture which is able to speak to my people in Lunte the way my people live. I want an agriculture policy which is going to give support to my people in Lunte according to their challenges. These universal policies have a tendency of giving maximum support to one side where the factors are fitting into that policy and fail to support the other side where the factors aren't fitting into that policy. So it's a great idea for me that a policy be modified, agriculture policy be modified. Even the Honorable Minister of Finance is here. He introduced, the agro loans. And he said, therefore, civil servants. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, if civil servants who work in Northern Province were given a particular type of package which fit the ecology of Northern Province, and those in Southern Province are given a particular package which fits their circumstances. Those in Eastern Province and all those factors surrounding the various ecological zones as established are considered in that fashion. Do you know what that would do to productivity? Do you know what that would do to the praise for the UPND government? It would do so much. I am sorry for my UPND colleagues who are actually shooting down great ideas. Sir, I beg to submit.
Yeah. The Honorable Member for Katombola.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for according the people of Katombola constituency to add their voice on the motion that has been brought by the Honorable Fube. Mr. Speaker, we want to indicate from Katombola constituency that we do not support the motion on the creation of a policy on agroeconomic zones, because this is already what government is doing, Mr. Speaker. I want first to take back Honorable Fube. I know that he may not have been following government policies as at 2016. When you, the PF, you were in the office, 10 years you did not implement what you are trying to say now. You failed to implement the policies that you are saying they are good, because 10 years is a long time for you to have implemented the creation of a policy on agroeconomic zones. I want to state that, Mr. Speaker.
Order. May the honorable member for Katombola continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just want to speak to the research that was done by the member who has moved the motion. Appears to have been scattered in the sense that he did not take into consideration what the UPND government is doing already. The UPND government has taken agriculture policy very, very seriously for the very first time. This is an orderly government, is a systematic government that is delivering. His Excellency President, if he listened, the problem with these MPs, Mr. Speaker, is that when the President is here to render an address to the House, they don't concentrate. They would rather be doing other things. I want to state very clearly that the agroeconomic zones, in terms of agriculture policy, is already existing. And I'm wondering what he wants the government to do. Like now, Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you that ZARI, for example, the Agriculture Research Institute, and the Ministry of Green Economy, they have already researched and have already put through the green economy how the rain pattern will be in this republic. Now, listening to Honorable Fove to say that government must design an agriculture policy where they must take into consideration fertile soils, what type of rains will be received in I don't know whether he's even aware that the northern region this year will not receive sufficient rains. I don't know whether he's followed the meteorological report as to what will be happening this year. So it would appear that the honorable member has not researched sufficiently to try and understand the new dawn policy. And I urge him and the seconder to take serious consideration to look at the UPND manifesto first and foremost. We urge PF members and other members in this August House to read the UPND manifesto. Concentrate on looking at the policies of the new dawn government on agriculture, where the president, the policy of government has been very, very clear on agriculture, that agriculture is a business. Agriculture is a business. For the very first time, maize, growing of maize, which was trashed under the previous government. The government gave us very good price. Very good price.
May you take your seat, honorable member for Lumezi?
Very good price for maize. Previously, what FRA used to do, Mr. Speaker, is that even where they have harvested, they could just buy maize on credit under PF. Farmers were not paid. The problem of agroeconomic zones that they are trying to bring in is already being addressed, and this government has pushed in very good amounts of money, particularly in the agriculture sector this year, and they have also addressed issues of water harvest. I don't know whether he has looked at the budget. He's looking at me. It would have been best, Mr. Speaker, if the member, before moving this motion, had researched to punch holes on the policy of the UPND government, which is a very robust policy on agriculture. He has not addressed the lacunas or the vacuums that appear in the agriculture policy of the new dawn government. For him to urge us, to urge the UPND to adopt a policy which they failed themselves to adopt or to implement in the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we strongly and vehemently oppose the motion that has been brought by the honorable member, Honorable Fube. It is premature because government is already doing that and it's a BID. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honorable member for Lumezi.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you most sincerely. But I don't know whether I'm being picked from my point of order to make submissions to the motion.
No, you are debating.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think the motion is quite explicit. It says formulate agroecological zone-based agriculture policy. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to many submissions being made by colleagues from your right-hand side, and they are not being sincere to the Zambian people. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that the rainfall pattern has fortunately or unfortunately favored the northern circuit of this country. We cannot make submissions on premature ejaculations of people saying...
Honorable Member Fulumezi, Honorable Member Fulumezi, I will curtail your debate when you take your seat. Let's have good choice of words. As much, it doesn't matter in which context you are trying to use it, but ultimately we are human. So have choice of words, what you use. So you may take your seat. I'm curtailing you, because you are becoming, I think I'm curtailing you. Next, Honorable Member for Zambia East.
Mr. Speaker, I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion that was ably moved by the Honorable Member for Chilubi, Honorable Fube, and seconded by the Honorable Member for Kamfinsa. Mr. Speaker, listening to the mover of the motion and the seconder of the motion, and subsequent debates that followed, these two, especially from the opposition, it appears the subject of attempting to divide the nation in regional sects still persists. And we must deal with this. We must deal with this. I will qualify my statement, because listening to the debate,
I'll name you. I don't have any choice. If you want to become an honorable, we will accord you that status. This house is house of rules. So even in the manner, the way we conduct ourselves as members of the house, it has to be of honor to ensure that there's decorum. But if the opposite is the case, we'll treat you as such. May the Honorable Member for Zambia East continue.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the protection and allow me to continue with my debate. My line of thought is my opinion, and everybody else in this house are entitled to their opinion. And this forum is free for anyone to indicate to contribute to the debate. What I'm trying to do here is to oppose the motion that has been moved and to speak in response to what the opposition has actually proposed in the motion. Of course, proponents of the motion have debated, and their line of thought seems to be suggesting that the country needs to be divided into regions and the like, of course using the disguised language of agroeconomic zones based on recent past performance of the weather in the country. But when we look back historically, which regions were the food basket of this country? Did we have, that question can be answered by anybody. And for sure, coming up today just because of the rain season's pattern, which was unfavorable in certain regions, then should compel us to come up with a whole government policy based on agroeconomic zones would be too much to ask. And in any case, the New Dawn administration is bent on equitable distribution of resources. And I'm compelled to debate like this, Mr. Speaker, because look at how we're trying to unite the country. Such motions must be looked at very carefully, because they have the potential of dividing the country. Regions have been mentioned here, and I've seen proponents talking about the north, the south, and the like. And these people need to be told straight in their faces. Straight in their faces, because if we massage these things, people out there who are listening would be thinking that that's the way to go. This should not be allowed. Agroeconomic zones exist. And the fact that agroeconomic zones exist and are recognized by government in their policies means that the policy has taken care of such. There is no need to come up and coin a motion that seems to be suggesting to divide the country in regions. This should not be allowed, Mr. Speaker. Because for me, I'm seeing it that way. Especially the fact that pronouncements have been made from the left in trying to suggest the north, the south, and the rain pattern that we seemed to experience in the previous rain season. These people need to be told, Mr. Speaker, so that they understand. They need to be put in their place. That's why I debate this way. Because when you don't tell them and put them in their place, they take advantage.
Order.
They have talked about regions. That's why I'm coming out like this. And we need to correct the situation. Equitable distribution of resources is the way to go. And for now, we are bringing in even these loans. In any case, Mr. Speaker, we have created...
Order. Avoid debating while I seated.
We have created farming blocks. Farming blocks, and anyone and sundry is free to invest in those farming blocks. I don't need to come from Lopula in order for me to invest in farming in Lopula. So coming here to start suggesting that resources which are in the budget should be allocated according to agroeconomic zones is too much to ask. Because if you think the rain pattern will be favorable in a certain area, go and invest your resources in there. At the end of the day, you should not disadvantage, you should not compel government to start thinking of the small issues of where to take resources. Everyone is entitled to these government resources, and everyone must receive these resources equitably. In any case, while we are working hard to try and remove or to try and make sure that our people do not depend on these subsidies so that they can stand on their own, we are helping them to stand on their own collectively, the whole country. Now you come here coining such a motion so that we stop this very good program to support everyone in the country by suggesting such a motion where you want certain regions to be favored over and above others. Mr. Speaker, us on the right-hand side, we cannot support such a frivolous motion coined on that basis. I have no further words to make, but I think for that reason, I will not support this motion, and I think this should place them in their place. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Acting Minister of Agriculture to respond.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you most sincerely for according me an opportunity to make a submission on the private member's motion. Formulate agroecological zone-based agriculture policy. That in order to optimize agriculture production, the House urges the government to formulate an agriculture policy based on agroecology zones. Mr. Speaker, as you may be aware, the government of the Republic of Zambia recognizes the importance of agroecological zones in promoting sustainable agriculture, enhancing productivity, and ensuring food security. Therefore, the second National Agriculture Policy of 2016, which is currently under review, aims to enhance the framework for agriculture development, which is aligned with the country's agroecological zones. Mr. Speaker, the agriculture sector already incorporates agroecology within its broader policy framework as by definition. An agroecological zone is a land mapping unit that characterized by climate, landform, soils, and land cover. The purpose of zoning is to identify areas with similar conditions for development, as this enables targeted interventions through tailored agriculture programs. Mr. Speaker, according to the second National Agriculture Policy of 2016, Zambia's agroecological zones are categorized by 3 distinct regions, namely, Zone 1 covers 12% of the country's total land area and receives less than 800 millimeters of rainfall annually. It encompasses the southern, eastern, and western provinces. This zone features loamy to clayey soils on valley floors and coast to fine loamy shallow soils on escarpments, making it suitable for irrigation-based farming of various crops, including cotton, sorghum, groundnuts, beans, sweet potatoes, fruits, and vegetables. However, the growing season is relatively short, ranging between 80 to 120 days, thus making early maturing seed varieties preferable. Mr. Speaker, Zone 2 constitutes 42% of Zambia's land area, which receives between 800 to 1,000 millimeters of rainfall annually and has a growing season of 100 to 140 days. This zone covers central, Lusaka, and parts of southern and eastern provinces and is characterized by fertile red to brown clay to loamy soil types. This region is home to the majority of the country's commercial farms, cultivating crops such as cotton, maize, tobacco, sunflower, soybeans, wheat, groundnuts, and other arable crops. Medium maturing seed varieties are encouraged to be cultivated in this region. Mr. Speaker, Zone 3 covers 46% of Zambia's total land area, which receives between 1,000 to 1,500 millimeters of rainfall annually and comprises of the Copper Belt, Northern, Luapula, Muchinga, and Northwestern provinces. It is characterized by highly leached acidic soils and suitable for producing millet, cassava, sorghum, beans, groundnuts, coffee, sugarcane, rice, and pineapples, and other late manufacturing seed varieties, as the growing season is much longer. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Agriculture is mandated to facilitate the development of a suitable and diversified agriculture sector for food and nutrition security and income generation. Therefore, understanding these agroecological zones enables targeted agricultural practices and interventions to optimize crop production, productivity, and promote sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, as you may be aware, government through the ministry is currently providing subsidized inputs through the program known as the Farmer Input Support Program, FISIP, to small-scale farmers throughout the country using 2 modalities, namely direct input supply and e-voucher supply. Inputs such as seed are being supplied and distributed according to the specific agroeconomic zones. For example, the seed type and the varieties are supplied following the agroecological zones in various provinces. However, inputs such as fertilizer are currently not distributed according to soil type, a challenge that the revised legal reform on fertilizer hopes to cure. Mr. Speaker, to ensure that our farmers cultivate suitable crops for their agroecological regions, the government is promoting drought-tolerant crops by developing and disseminating drought-tolerant seeds varieties through the Farmer Input Support Program. Farmers are also trained on how to implement climate-smart agriculture practices such as conservation, agriculture practices, and agroforestry to enhance resilience in various agroecological regions. Further, the ministry encourages farmers to practice crop rotation in order to maintain soil fertility and its structure. Mr. Speaker, as earlier alluded to, The Ministry of Agriculture is currently reviewing the second National Agriculture Policy to optimize agricultural production. The ministry is also in the process of developing a national agriculture ecology strategy with appropriate implementation measures, monitoring and evaluation mechanisms, which will be embedded in the revised national agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the benefits that are accrued from implementing an agroecological zone based on agriculture policy are many and cannot be overemphasized. However, the honorable members of this House should be rest assured that government is already implementing interventions that support optimized crop production based on agroecological zones. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, allow me to stress that the fact that government is already implementing interventions that underpin a sustainable, resilient, climate-smart and productive agriculture sector based on 3 distinct agroecological zones as espoused in the second National Agriculture Policy of 2016 and the envisaged National Agroecological Strategy. Therefore, this motion cannot be supported as government is already implementing interventions based on agroecological zones that optimize agricultural production. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, this motion cannot be supported as government is already implementing interventions based on agroecological zones that optimize agricultural production. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chiruvi, wind-up debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to indicate that I had perused through different documents before I brought this motion on the floor. I also want to indicate that the people of Chiruvi are very, very disappointed with one member of parliament, Mr. Honorable Kambita's language. The people of Chiruvi have produced a member of parliament who has brought this motion to parliament who is a nationalist. I have all my footprints in all the 10 provinces, and I can ascertain to that. And I think that kind of regional talk should not be encouraged in the House. The people of Chiruvi are very disappointed with that member. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate the debaters who contributed to this motion, and I also want to appreciate, though contradictory, government response. Government has acknowledged that there is need to do agroecological zones, and they are in the process. And in the same breath, they have said they cannot support the motion. And I think that's where I find the problem. I think when we look at the statement from government, it's equally supporting the motion, heavily supporting the motion, with no what. And I like the data that member of parliament who was promoting regionalism said, I'm the one who has brought those ecological zones and have divided the country. I think that it should not be the case. I want to appreciate that the ministers acknowledged that government is in the process of dividing these, responding, having a climate responsive approach and revising the second national, the second national agriculture policy. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that according to Article 63 of our Constitution, I will not relent to bring another motion because it gives me the permission to do oversight, and also I have minutes. You are not the speaker. The speaker will control me. It gives me to do oversight. It gives me to registrate and represent the Zambian people. Mr. Speaker, I want to go on record that this motion was brought in very good faith. I have been eating rice from Mongu. I've been eating cashew nuts from Mongu. The food that is produced, even now, if you go to Chiruvi, you find trucks have lined up to get maize, white maize, from the shed from Chiruvi. It's feeding the nation. So when we look at these factors, those, and I say those who come here with political lenses and tribal lenses should be controlled. Because one day, when the other side reacts, they will put the house on fire. I want to say that to subject well-meant ideas to grandstanding politics or political rivalry is not going to help us. Mr. Speaker, I want to give you an example why this motion was tailored this way. FISIP is thinly distributed. Government has come up with 84 districts where they want to subject the e-voucher. And what this motion was calling for is that the 13 billion that has been allocated to agriculture should be structured in a manner that causes impact. It also offers food sovereignty for the Zambian people. No tribe was involved. No tribe was involved. And these are scientific...
Honorable Member, may you take your seat. When the minister was responding, stating government position, he never put any context of tribal inclination in his statement. Now I don't know why you keep talking about, you keep referring to tribe. I think desist from that. The government position is that it has its own way of doing things, and then you should have been responding to what everyone has debated, as opposed for you just to continue singling on tribe, which was not the case, which was not government position. So you may continue and wind up.
Well guided, Mr. Speaker, I think you heard me appreciate government position on this, but I also wanted to take chance to caution that member of parliament that he should mark his lane. Mr. Speaker, the issue of research and development, there is need that we take it up properly because it's misunderstood and it was thrown to the wind without proper direction. Mr. Speaker, the people of Chirubi would like to submit that both groundwater and surface water is driven by the lens. We were told that the first and second week of October will have heavy rains. Did we have? We didn't have. So for anyone to suggest that meteorological projections will react the way it is, God is the owner of the rainfall and is the one who provides groundwater and surface water. The people of Chirubi would like to end on this note. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question. The question is, in order to optimize agricultural production, this House urges the government to formulate an agricultural policy based on agroecological zones. As many as of that opinion say aye. 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 Of the contrary say no. No. The noes have it. The question is in negative. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Supply motion of 5th November 2024, resumption of debate.
When business was interrupted yesterday, 12th November 2024, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2025 to 31st December 2025, presented to the National Assembly in September 2024. And the Honorable Member for Kawata was debating. May the Honorable Member continue?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I was actually trying to stress a point on the recommendation that was made by your committee on the recruitment of health workers. I was trying to emphasize that what the committee needed to do was to emphasize on the recruitment of public health and nurses, because I feel that we need to do more of the prevention than curing or treatment or treating people, because it is more costly to treat someone than prevent. So what we need to do is to ensure that we recruit more public health nurses that can go right in our communities and see how best they can start fighting the issues of typhoid, the issues of cholera. We've done much on the recruitment of the registered nurses and other stuff, but let's also consider health workers, public health nurses so that we deal with the issue of prevention. Because what is going to help this nation is the issue of prevention. Mr. Speaker, let me also talk about agriculture, headed 9. Mr. Speaker, I saw also that the allocation for the Ministry of Agriculture has gone a bit down, but with that is a plus for us because we've seen so many activities that are going to be introduced. The Sustainable Agriculture Financing Facility, this is a facility that needs to be enhanced, and this is a facility that needs to be taken to the people so that people can understand what this program is all about. There's need for more information, more clarity on how this Sustainable Agriculture facility is working. Mr. Speaker, today as I'm speaking, I know that there are a lot of people that are trying to queue up for FISIP. But when you go for the the Sustainable Agriculture Financing Program, you will not even labor. These are monies that you apply and you can easily get. So more information needs to be done. The Ministry of Agriculture needs to use the Department of Information, that is NAIS. They need to use NAIS to start sensitizing many farmers about this facility that is being provided for. Mr. Speaker, also on FISIP, yes, I know we have about 1,024,000 people that are benefiting from FISIP, but I think they feel that there's need also to start encouraging the organic farming. That's what we need to start now doing. Let's encourage the other farmers that are not benefiting from FISIP so that they start now implementing organic farming. Because I believe, Mr. Speaker, that organic farming is the best way that we can start looking at here in this country. Some of us, we don't even understand why we are having some of these cases of cancers. Every time you go to the National Cancer Registry, you find that the statistics of cancer diseases, they are ever increasing. Why is it happening like that? There's a reason why such things are happening. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that organic agriculture or organic farming is the best way that we can now start introducing to our people. You go to countries like Rwanda, they are busy encouraging organic farming. So this is what we need to do in our country. Let's encourage the other part that is not receiving FISIP to start now doing organic farming. Mr. Speaker, on education, I feel that the recommendation that was made by your committee on early childhood, yes, I do agree that we do not have enough infrastructure to provide for our children. Early childhood education is the education. So we need to do much on infrastructure. Then the other issue that I feel that the committee should have also emphasized is the education of a boy child. Mr. Speaker, today a boy child is either a junkie. If he's not a junkie, then you find that a boy child is busy grappling, fighting the addiction at Shainama Hills Hospital. It's either they are fighting because of drug abuse. They are fighting because they are failing to control the substance abuse. So the recommendation by the committee should have actually emphasized on how we can improve on educating a boy child. So that some of these issues that we've been complaining about, the junkies, some of these issues that we've been complaining about, children being on drugs, can be minimized. Today, Mr. Speaker, a girl child has been educated. You go to this bank, you find there's a female head of a banking sector. You go to the other bank, it's another female. What about a boy child? What is it that we are doing to now start raising a boy child in terms of education? Mr. Speaker, today if you go to most of these prisons, most of the guys that we see in these prisons are these boys, the age of 15, 16, up to 23. These are the ones that have filled most of these correctional facilities. So there's need, Mr. Speaker, that we need to start now looking at how best we can educate our boy child. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, let me also talk about the Ministry of Lands. Mr. Speaker, I know that the ministry has been allocated enough, at least enough resources for them to sort out some of the challenges that they are facing, especially that the country is facing, especially issues to do with border affirmation look at the border between Zambia and DRC. We have not done much. I think there's need for the ministry to start considering on how best we can put up boundaries, set up boundaries between Zambia and DRC. I know between Angola and Zambia, we've tried to put some beacons, but we need to affirm those boundaries so that we can know our boundaries and see how best we can protect our sovereignty. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, the good people of Kawata want to support the motion that is on the floor. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Nkana.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to also have a bite at the cherry, and I'll focus on the energy sector. Mr. Speaker, the word called objective, for me, and I would like to be very firm on this one, I think that we should avoid optimism and stick to reality. As I speak to the issue of the energy sector, I'll drive you to my macroeconomic objectives. When the 2024 budget was presented, I think that my word attracted sharp reactions because I actually labeled it a very useless budget. But, Mr. Speaker, you can see clearly that we were living in fantasies. The Minister of Finance in 2024 projected the growth rate to be at 4.8%. Later on, he went and revised that projection to 2.3%. Today, the IMF is projecting the growth to be at 1.3%. In fact, the latest is that they are projecting the growth to be at 1.25%. 2025 budget, Mr. Speaker, again, the Minister of Finance has gone window shopping. He has projected the growth to be at 6.6%. How, Mr. Speaker? Because you know very well that for us to be able to attain the 6.6%, key fundamentals, let's talk about the energy sector. The energy sector, Mr. Speaker, at the expense of me sounding like a broken record or monotonous, is critical to the growth or to the survival of this country. For argument's sake, the energy sector is like the blood, whereas a body can survive for days without food and water, you can't survive without blood. And that is the economy. You can't survive without the energy sector. Today we agree that we've been hit by the effects of climate change, which saw us experiencing a severe drought. But we cannot continue to lament over the drought. We cannot continue to fold our arms and complain about the issues of drought. We've got to step in and provide leadership. Today the minister is projecting to grow this economy to 6.6%. Just today, or if not yesterday, the Bank of Zambia is increasing the monetary policy rate to 14%. This is almost a 6, if not 7 or 8 times that the new Dawn government has increased the policy rate. Do you know what it does, Mr. Speaker? It increases the cost of money in this country. How can you project growth if people cannot even access that money? Because to access money today, it's extremely expensive. When UPND was campaigning, they said they were going to work on lowering bank interest rates. But if you're going to have 2-3 times increasing the monetary rate, what are you suggesting? You are actually working in reverse gear. So how can you project to grow at 6.6% when the others are working in opposite? Mr. Speaker, the energy sector, when you interrogate the budget, this government must have done the needfuls. They must have, because the elephant in the room is the energy sector, Mr. Speaker. That's the elephant in the room. I would have appreciated if government had thrown all its money into addressing the energy crisis. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we don't address the energy crisis, all these are but dreams and fantasies. Because today, because of lack of electricity, industries are shutting down today. Small players, the small businesses today are closing down, Mr. Speaker, because of the energy crisis. What a responsible budget would have done is to throw all its weight towards addressing the energy sector. I would have loved more money to be pushed into alternative sources of power, as opposed to wanting to sit back and see investors coming to invest. Government should have taken a deliberate intervention by way of capacitating ZESCO to also go and invest in these solar alternatives. The first assignment UPND should have done, Mr. Speaker, was to complete the 330 kV interconnecting line, which the previous government started from Pensro all the way to Kasama. That line should have been completed up to Tanzania. That is where money should have been thrown, because today when we have a crisis, we could have been going to buy power from the eastern power pool. In that budget, the minister says government is importing power. Where? Because the only place where they can import power is from the southern power pool, where there's no power. Now, again, you are using deception. Today you come to Zambian people to say, can we increase rates so that we can raise money to buy power? Yes, effective November, Zambian people are paying more for their power, so that the Ministry of Energy can raise money so that they can buy excess power or more power. Where are they going to buy power from? Because the southern power pool where we are connected has no power. They can only buy off-peak power. That is why, even when the minister promised that by 1st November, we are going to have increased hours of power from 3 to 7 hours, it's not happening. Ask anywhere, Mr. Speaker. People are still going for just 3 hours. Others are still going without power the whole day. Mr. Speaker, these are facts. People are very scared to talk about facts. So what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, is this. This government should have done the needfuls. Today we cannot sit and continue to complain about drought. We have to do the needfuls. This budget must have plowed money or must have allocated money towards completing the 330 kV, because when you plan to buy 450 megawatts, Mr. Minister of Energy, you could have easily gotten it from Tanzania. Tanzania today is shutting down its power plants because they've got excess. That is where we could have gone. Mr. Speaker, we have a crisis now in the fuel subsector because of a flawed policy that saw us transforming the Indeni pipeline from carrying a commingled fuel into one product. In that budget, government has changed gears. They have gone to allocate more money into building another pipeline. That tells you that that policy was flawed. Which is why, Mr. Speaker, we must be listening to each other. This sector called the energy sector must have gotten priority, because any of the other facets of the budget is just by the dream if we don't address the issue of the energy crisis, Mr. Speaker. Today, I want to remind you, Minister of Energy, people are suffering. Industries are closing down. This employment you boast about, teachers and nurses, you will not find money to pay for the wage bill. You need the private sector to thrive for you to raise money to pay those teachers and those nurses that you are employing. That is what we must focus on. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I want to conclude this debate.
As the time is 18:25 hours, I interrupt proceedings and debate stands adjourned. Day for resumption of debate.
Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker.
Debate to resume tomorrow. Her Honor, the Vice President, adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
As no notice of an item for debate on the motion of adjournment of the House has been received, I put a question. The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned.
Being with us on Parliament Television, business of the House is just adjourned, and we now take a look at business that has been considered from the time business resumed at 14:30 hours. And when business resumed, Madam Speaker did make two announcements, and in the announcement, she recognized the presence in the public gallery of students and lecturers from Zambia Center for Accountancy Studies, ZICAS University Law Association, and of pupils and teachers from Inspire Leadership School. Madam Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly.
Yes, indeed. Thereafter, the House did consider three ordinary questions under Standing Order 80. And question 120 did come from Mr. Sunday Chanda, Kanchibuya constituency member of Parliament. He did ask the Minister of Energy in four parts. In A, when electrification of Kavinga Chiefdom in Kanchibuya parliamentary constituency by the Rural Electrification Authority will commence. And the Minister did say that this will commence in March 2025. And in answering Part B, what was the cause of the delay in commencing the project, the Minister attributed the delay in commencing the project to due to financial constraints. And in answering Part C, which was the total cost of the project, the Minister did say that the total cost of the project is 270,000 United States. The Minister said that September
121, who Kalabo Central member, was directed to the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, and he wanted to know when the government will employ experts in rural district councils to enhance the execution of projects under the Constituency Development Fund. And the Minister did respond that the Local Government Service Commission has already commenced the recruiting of district to enhance the execution of projects under the Constituency Development Fund.
And question 122 did come from Mr. Emmanuel Banda Muchinga, constituency member of Parliament. He did ask the Minister of Youth, Sports and Arts in A, whether the government has any plans to empower youths who are involved in the following economic sectors in Muchinga parliamentary constituency: agriculture, transport and food production. And B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. And in response, the Minister did say that the government has plans to empower youths who are involved in economic sectors in Muchinga parliamentary constituency. In answering Part B, which was when the plans will be implemented, the Minister did say that the implementation is targeted approach, which is province by province.
Thereafter, the House went to consider private members' motions, and today we did have two private members' motions on the order paper. The first one was moved by Lunte, Member of Parliament. This House urges the government to abolish fees payable on bee products so as to promote the production of honey and other bee products. This motion was negatived.
And the second one did come from Mr. Mulenga Fuwe, who is a Chilobi constituency member of Parliament. The motion was titled Formulate Agroecological Zone-Based Agricultural Policy, that in order to optimize agricultural production, this House urges the government to formulate an agricultural policy based on agroecological zones. And this motion was seconded by Mr. Christopher Kangombe, who is Kamfinsa constituency member of Parliament, and the motion was equally negative.
And thereafter, we did see resumption of debate on the motion of supply, a motion of 5th November 2024. This motion was moved by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2025 to 31st December 2025, presented to the National Assembly in September 2024. And at the time business was interrupted, Nkana, Member of Parliament, Mr. Binwal Mpundu had just finished debating the motion. And so that's basically the business that has been considered today. So from all of us here at Parliament Television and on behalf of the entire production, it's a lovely evening.